Global warming. It sounds like a big deal. And you know what? It is. There are a lot of reasons that we should be very concerned about global warming. And the more you learn about the science behind it, the more you'll realize that it's something that we should be very concerned about. But the good news is, it's also something that we can do something about. And the more science you know, the better chance we have. Global warming is about how the temperature of the Earth has changed over history. When we're talking about history, we mean going back to like millions of years ago. And over that time, a lot of people would let you think that global warming meant that the temperature has just gone up and up and up. But that's not actually the case. In truth, the temperature over millions of years has had times where it's higher and times where it's lower. And today, we're at a place where we don't know what's going to happen next. The catch is that scientists have good reason to think that what's going to happen next is that our temperature is going to keep going up instead of just going back down like it's done before. And the more you learn, I think you'll see that there's a lot of reasons to believe that this is the scenario that's going to happen, and that means we need to be doing something now. In order to understand why this is happening, we need to look at another graph that goes hand in hand with this one. And that graph also goes back millions of years ago, but this graph looks at how much fuel humans have used over that time. That could be like burning wood for fires or burning coal for power. And of course, for millions and millions of years, humans used virtually no fuel at all, basically just some small fires. But then in recent times, it started to go way up, and this started around the 1800s during something called the Industrial Revolution. And this was started in England, and this happened when when scientists for the first time invented machines that used coal, so like steam engines and steamboats, trains, that led eventually to cars and to electricity and to all the computers and things we have today. But it all started with this Industrial Revolution in the 1800s. And here's the thing about this graph. We don't know what's going to happen to temperature, but nobody has any doubt that this graph of fuel is going to keep going up. How do we know that? Well, that's because right now there's billions of people in India and China who are going to be getting richer in coming years and who want to live the same kind of lives that Americans and Europeans live. That means like 3 billion more people that are going to have bigger houses, bigger cars, more phones, more gadgets, using electricity, and all of that requires burning more fuel. So let's get to this idea of fuel. We're going to need to understand this if we want to do anything about global warming. So there's two kinds of jobs in the world. There's jobs that need fuel, and there's jobs that don't need fuel. We need to understand the difference between these. I'll show you some now, and after you watch this video, you'll have a chance to answer some questions. Okay, so needing fuel. So like fire obviously needs fuel. Your iPhone needs fuel. It needs energy in order to run. When you play sports, you need fuel. You've got to have some energy if you want to play sports. And even a garden, like if you're growing plants, that needs fuel too. It turns out plants get their fuel from the sun, but we need fuel in order to grow a garden. On the other hand, things that don't need fuel, well, how about like a desk holding your papers? Your desk doesn't need any fuel, it doesn't need to be plugged in or batteries. Your desk doesn't need fuel. How about a bottle holding water? Same idea, doesn't need any fuel. A pin holding up a piece of paper on the wall doesn't need fuel. And you could even have like window shades keeping the sun out. You can do that without any fuel. And finally, let's look at like a blanket. You use a blanket at night. It keeps you warm, but it doesn't need any fuel in order to work. Well, the main difference between these two things is that all these things that need fuel are making changes. And all these things that don't need fuel are things that stay the same. Now, this isn't a guaranteed rule. We'll see there are some exceptions, but it's a good guideline that you need fuel if you want to make changes. Well, let's come back to this idea of global warming. What can we do if we want to reduce the amount of fuel that we're going to be using in the future? Well, there's two main things that we can do. The first one is we can use cleaner fuel. Instead of burning things like oil and gas and coal, we can start using fuel that comes from the sun the way the plants do, or we could use something called geothermal energy, heat from the earth, or wind energy, and many other choices. Now another option is that we can also use less fuel. Now we said this one is going to be really difficult because we know that there's all these billions of people who are going to be wanting to use more fuel. So if we want to accomplish either of these things, we're going to be using science to get those breakthroughs that will make it happen. This is the big story here, is that science can be the one to help us out of this jam. And in order to understand this, the first piece of science that we need to understand has to do with energy. So, after this, you're going to be asked to answer some questions about fuel and about global warming, and then you'll come back for the next video and you'll start learning about energy so you can help us make the planet a better place.